This is my assistive technology presentation. So here we have a curriculum map showing first grade math curriculum, and we will be focusing on the September in marking period 1. So the first unit is counting. Some of the key vocabulary for counting is base 10 blocks, counting back and counting up, estimating, pattern blocks, different things like that, which you can see in our I can statements. So some of my I can statements based on that key vocabulary and September curriculum map are counting with base 10 blocks, using a number line to count, counting up to 120 and counting back from 120 because that is part of our standards. And you will be able to see that in the assessment that we have. So some plans for assessment that I would make using this curriculum map would be to have summative assessment, both pre and post testing, using a Google form to test, so you can use online and get the data back from that, which we'll see in a minute. But also formative assessment is also important, so doing things like think, pair, share, exit tickets, and even some small quizzes. Plans for modification and accommodation. So what's really important is lowering the depth of knowledge if necessary. So moving back from a level 2 to a level 1 or 3 back to 2 for students who need that accommodation, reducing the number of questions or having read aloud available, which is super convenient if you have an online test, as we'll see today, because that feature is available on most tests online. So here's a couple sample questions from the counting assessment that I created. So the first question is, write the next 5 numbers after 17, and there's a space available for students to fill in. What option skip counts by 3, what number is represented by the base 10 blocks, and then an image is inserted with base 10 blocks. And then last question that we can see here is what 3 numbers come before 32. So that's the counting back aspect, as we saw in the I can statements. So plans for remediation would come from the data that is collected from the assessment. So we can see here, based on the 4 responses that I got, the first question, 2 students got it right, the middle column there, and then 2 students got it wrong. It looks like 1 student didn't start at 17 and another student skipped a number, so just some errors there. So we might look at how that question was asked and see if there was any issues there. But the rest of the questions, only 1 student got wrong, and the rest got right. So we can see that we're at 75%. That's pretty good. Addressing plans for remediation, as I mentioned on the last slide, we might look at why that first question was missed so frequently, because that is at a level 1 depth of knowledge, so we can't lower that anymore. So maybe the formatting was, or the way the question was asked, confused some students. So we would probably retest those students and make sure that they can answer that question accurately. And then we could also do a small review on those other topics, just because there was 1 student who did not answer correctly, so making sure that everyone is getting the correct answer. So from this assessment, we can see multi-tiered system of support, because we are giving this instruction and assessment to the whole class. So that is all students receiving the high quality instruction. And then we can also move it up to tier 2, because we can reuse this assessment multiple times for students who need to be retested or work in small groups and different things like that. And it could even be considered tier 3, because we're making accommodations and modifications as necessary. So that is my assistive technology project.